Off the dome, man. We got the Western Conference Finals we were waiting for all season long. It was there looming like two mighty gladiators marching towards each other. Well, we will get into it next on Beyond the Locker Room. OKC Thunder versus San Antonio Spurs. Oh boy, I don't think I've waited for a conference finals as much as this one. And the reason why I find this such an intriguing matchup is for a few different reasons. This is a bit like old school days. And what I mean by that is you have to probably the last place you have to go to the last time we had conference finals like this is probably when they had the Houston Rockets, led by James Harden versus the Warriors, those teams with Curry and Durant and all them. Or Curry, because Houston was always bumping up against Golden State, so a story was being told. And we were sitting there watching, like, okay, I think Houston that one, when Houston gave away the lead when they couldn't score, I think it was they missed like 27, 28 threes that series. Chris Paul gets hurt. It looked like that was their year. They won 60-something games, I think, that year. I think they're the number one seed. It just felt like, but it was a story building up to that moment. And we really haven't had conference finals. We've had like different, random teams playing each other for the most part each year. And granted, San Antonio's first time here to the ball in the conference finals. OKC's been here now 3 years straight. However, San Antonio, the way they've come up and the rise and how they played against OKC all year makes this, it's kind of fast forward, accelerated this rivalry more than what we thought of. And the fact that both teams are so young, you can see it. Knock on wood, we pray and hope that no major injuries happen to any of the key players moving forward for the rest of this decade. Because if this is the case, we can see a lot of Western Conference finals with these two in them. And some years someone else might sneak in, but for about a good 5-6 year stretch, kind of like how the Spurs Lakers were back in the early aughts, where they were kind of going back and forth. If not both of them were going against each other, or one of them will be in there all the time, which makes for very compelling storytelling. I am looking forward to it. I believe NBC has the call for that series. Thank you. And it's a great snag for them to get that out of the deal, that they get the Western Conference Finals. Fantastic. I am looking forward to this on so many levels. Let's get into it. So, all year I've said that, OKC is the prohibitive favorite to some extent, but don't count San Antonio out. Not only because they seem to match up well with them, they were playing so well throughout the season, seem to be gaining confidence and a certain maturity. And we saw it even in these playoffs, even when times they had some bumps in the road. The concussion, they lost Wemby for that. The guys pulled through. They played well without Wemby all year. They leveled the series to get back the home court advantage, and off they were running, and took care of Portland pretty quickly. San Antonio faces Minnesota, a gritty Timberwolves team. Obviously, the Wemby elbow, that there. My honest thoughts about it. I think I mentioned it already before in Basketball Rewind, but I'll say it here too. I thought in this case he should have been tossed. The more I saw it, it looked a little premeditated. Does that equate to me saying that Wemby's a dirty player? No. Is that a dirty act? Yeah. Is that act in this case where you're sending a message? Yeah. No two ways about it. It's funny, after that elbow, though, it's funny how the Timberwolves in this case, they have as much bite as they had for him after that. I think it was just the Nas Reed push after that, but for the most part, he was able to do what he wanted and do it at will what he wanted because he sent the message. I mean, for you guys who are hockey fans and puck fans, you kind of know what I'm getting at with that. They could use an enforcer on that team, by the way, to kind of do all that dirty work. But one thing with Wemby, he cut a different way than most of the young guys today, man. Like, he ain't trying to be, as I said before, I'm not saying this is a bad way, but it's an interesting, more of a personality quirk with him. He ain't trying to be friends with folks. He's ruffling feathers. He's ruffling the old guard. He's ruffling the current guard. He's ruffling the young guys. Like, he don't care. He's ruffling the champs, by the way. Like, he got a few things to say about them during the season. So, let's get it on, as Mills Lane would say. Let's get it on for you folks of the sweet science, fans of the sweet science. Let's do this. As I mentioned before, the matchup is intriguing because the physicality and the athleticism of the guards of San Antonio does make that very difficult for SGA, because they can throw different bodies at him, and then you throw in Big Vic, who's patrolling the paint, which obviously SGA wants to get there. He wants to get the elbow. It makes it a lot more difficult for him to get that many shots. I think when I did the breakdown with them earlier this year, when I did a Spurs pod and talked about their success against OKC, I think I had some stats at the time about how SGA pretty much was, for the losses, he barely was getting in the paint, and which means he's not getting to the free throw line likely as well too. So that is something to watch throughout the series. How often can you get the line? How often can you get paint touches? On that front. Second part to watch for, it's been an ongoing discussion. I hate to say so, but unfortunately when it comes to OKC, it seems to be part of the course, as they say. And that's how this series will be officiated, right? So if the officiating is going to be very touchy stuff for SGA, that can be problematic for San Antonio. If they're going to let everybody play, it does play in the Spurs' hands. I think they too can match up just as much as Dort and Caruso when it comes to mugging it up. So they got enough guys, enough bodies to throw out there. Castle is a beast. I said before, he's one of my guys. When that draft came out, I said, this dude's going to be a star. And I said, funny enough, and who I say you remind me of, which seemed to be a little out in left field, not so much now, so he reminds me in this case of how SGA was coming out in college. And people was like, hey, like SGA. Now you watch how his style of plays and how he can get in the lane, how he has that deliberate footwork to get in the lane, very similar to SGA. He's got a little elbow mid-range game as well too, and the three's coming along as he was on fire in the deciding game of Minnesota, as you can see, man. Really, that was his game. He authored that game. Signature, pointed, bam. Stephen Castle. Okay, so he was the dude. They have a 1-2 punch. It is feel a little bit like the old school 1-2 punch of like a Kobe Shaq type of thing they got going on with Castle and Wemby. I'm not saying they're going to be that. I'm just saying it's structured that way. That's all I'm saying, folks. Where you got the big dominant big and the dominant guard, usually that combination is a very fruitful combination to try to get the championships and win championships. So, and then the other guys around them, Harper, Fox. I mean, Fox is an all-star, right? I still see Fox like the third option in some ways, in my mind. It's a crazy deep team. They have a window a couple years with that Fox contract till Castle and Harper's numbers start coming up. That they can do some damage, but it's gonna have to get done right here, right now against the champs. And the champs in this case have been playing fantastic ball. And the thing with Oklahoma City, going back to that physicality, what they tend to do is, in this sense, they remind me of my old Pistons in this case, the bad boy days, where they'll wear you down throughout the game. You might be up on them. You might be down by a couple possessions, feel you're there. But as the game goes on, that second half, man, they just keep wearing on you, just leaning on you. If you think from a boxing standpoint, right, where you think you have a boxer just kind of just leaning on you, Marvin Hagler, for all you old school boxing fans, will just be resting his hand on you and just nudge you, just pushing you the ropes. And by about round 7, man, you just don't want any more part of that, man. You just like, ugh. It's like, can I just be done with it? Sometimes you get wild and then he knocks you out, or you pretty much lose the fatigue and then he knocks you out. One way or the other, you're going down. And I think OKC it has a very similar style when it comes to basketball and how they play. So it will be interesting. It will be a lot of battles of, like I said before, there's going to be a lot of press conferences with these two coaches complaining about the officiating. Buckle up for that. I'm just telling you that right now, it's going to happen. So just watch out for that. I'm looking for the other side, the Castle-Dort matchup. I assume he will get the initial assignment on that. That could get very explosive, let's put it that way, considering how both guys like to play. I think very similar to the Randle-Castle. I thought that was the key matchup in the series. As Castle continued to play better throughout the series, San Antonio kind of got stranglehold of the series. And unfortunately for Randle, he kind of started withering as the series went along. I think the same thing is going to be true here. That is the matchup. Can they corral Castle to some extent? And then on the other side of things, because I don't know what they do. It's going to be interesting. SGA, because the thing is, that's what other thing with San Antonio. SGA is forced to play defense because it doesn't matter who he has in the backcourt, he's going to have to be forced to play defense, either Castle or Fox. And I think that is what makes San Antonio so potent. And even if he's sitting there and you say, okay, get a rest with the second unit. No, boy, you got Harper to deal with. So it'll be interesting to see, because I suspect if I'm San Antonio, what I'm doing is I'm attacking SGA. And I'm trying to put him in foul trouble. And I think if I'm old school with it, I'm getting switches on Castle and I'm posting him up. And that's what I'm doing. I'm posting him up on every chance I get. To take his legs out from him. If I'm coming from the OKC side, I'm trying, in this case here, I'm trying to work, in this case, in a strange way, I think I'm trying to go at Wemby. Because I think the problem people do is they try to put Wemby on the weak side, and that actually plays the Wemby strength, because then he can come over there like a big condor and swat everything in sight. I think you got to kind of go after him. Set him up in pick and rolls. Keep wearing him out, man. Hartenstein's put those sweet picks in there. You have, obviously, Chet. Now, that we can get that in a second. But you're going to have to find some ways to take his legs out from that side of things and run him as more pick and rolls every chance you get. I think Hartenstein's the right person for that, to kind of, or a guard, I should say, to kind of come there and beat Caruso, who sets a mean pick. Someone's got to sacrifice. Lou Dort's built like a linebacker. Someone's got to set the sacrifice, whomever it may be, to force him, in this case, force him, whoever has SGA, to force him into pick and rolls, to have him running around and get caught in switches, some form, some fashion. I will say this though, Wemby is a man, boy. When he thinks in this case here, he's not a fan of your game or you, or whatever the case may be, whatever personal slight he has against you, be it Rudy Gobert for whatever reason, be French connection, I don't know. I don't think they dislike each other, but I think he just sees Rudy as a time gone by and a bit of an annoyance, and you treat him as such. I think the same thing's gonna be a little bit true with Chet, because every time he's played Chet, that man's been a man possessed, man. That man is despises having Chet even named in the same sentence as him. And in some ways, I can understand it. As great as Chet is, he ain't the same thing, man. These two things are not the same thing. And I think he finds it offensive when he mentions Chet in the same breath as him. I love it, man. I love Wemby for that, man. Old school with that, man. The disdain. I can't wait for this series. Oh my gosh, the press conference is gonna be as good as the games. Just all the humble brags, all the slights. I can't wait for this series. I'm gonna leave it there because, man, it's too much fun. Kicks off this weekend, man. OKC, the champs are here versus San Antonio. As I said before, I haven't seen a conference finals I've been so excited about in years. Let's get it on, folks. Tell me what your thoughts are. Hey, man, put down below, man, who you think's gonna win it and how many games. I'll say it right here. I like the Spurs in 6. I'm going with it. I like the Spurs in 6. We'll see where it goes from there. I'll put myself out there. Anyways, you know where to find me as always, man. You can find me on Blue Sky, on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram. And as always, you can find me right here on YouTube. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, man. We're kind of moving on up, as they say. And we appreciate the support as always. Be safe out there. Enjoy the ball, guys. And we'll talk soon. Peace.